Ladies and gentlemen, big terror news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome to another edition of Big Hairy Slightly Late News. Kia ora team, kia ora, welcome. Debbie Ngarewa Rawiri Waititi, welcome so much to the show. And I do believe I just heard a little Wookiee chirp in my ear for a certain little orange-headed gentleman joining us any second now. In 3, 2, 1, you clap and he'll appear. Where is he? He's no, come on, Chewie, enter. Yay!
I had to milk it.
We're all
Kia ora, guys.
Apologies
so
for our lateness. I have to tell you, I wish I had been recording that conversation between Rawiri and Debbie as you guys were trying to coach one another. Well, Rawiri was trying to coach Deb to getting onto
it was
the
me
computer.
trying to help him.
And there was a hint of a question from Rawiri. I think he was joking that you might have been running late from a spray tan clinic. Is there any truth in that?
Yeah. Rawiri, you're so inappropriate. God, there goes that guy who's worrying about my tan instead of what's coming out of his mouth. Yeah, no, it's not. I only do it on Thursdays, remember?
Thursday, okay. Yeah, it's a Thursday appointment. All right, now let's just get a few things sorted out, whānau, for the people who are watching. Happy to take your chats. We're not going to put the chats live on the screen because they would go over Rawiri's face. So we're going to leave those off the screen for now.
Do it.
But I want to make this clear, just because sometimes our loyal audience guys are very generous to us. They do super chats and that kind of stuff. I'm just going to say this: doing a super chat's not going to guarantee a question. Okay, so I'm just putting it out there. So don't do it. If you we'll get to some questions. We'll try and throw some as we go through, and then we'll talk. But because we've just got together, how long have you guys got? Like, what are we doing tonight? Have you got a? Doesn't matter.
Nah, it's not Thursday. I don't have to tan yet.
Okay. We should. That's 3. We'll see how many of those jokes we can get in after the show. We'll go like a one tanning joke per 10 minutes. Actually, but in all seriousness, Deb, we talked about that last week, and it was disgusting. If we take away the silliness, it was repugnant, and it was unbelievably racist. And we played. We call him Karen because he's always complaining. So Karen Plunkett, and he did this half apology to you, and then he left the racist trope up on his Twitter feed.
Yeah.
So I mean,
what we've got is just a rhetoric that has become so violent. And you're right. Sometimes as Māori, I think actually a lot do this. We use humour to lighten the heaviness of actually what we go through. And I think Rawiri and I have probably adopted that in our first 3 years and have continued it on scale this last 18 months. But yeah, it is it's trash, and they have absolutely no one checking themselves, and it's not just Winston, it's the whole right-wing guard can come out of the and I really do think that they have an oral health issue, like they don't have a toothbrush or anything to sort of wash out the crap that comes out of their mouths. But it is and you get to that point and you sit and think, shit, do I take this head on? And I think in our roles of influence, we actually need to encourage and show that they don't have the power to take us out. What they say is, like I say, oral health issue. And more importantly, we need to continue to give courage to others who might actually be really silenced and put off by this sort of misogynistic violence that we've seen really normalized out of this government. And it's just goes to show that they have, he may be old, but he hasn't learned how to be dignified.
Kiwi Bird says it straight away. That's why we need free dental. It's a very good point, Kiwi Bird. That
is a very good point.
Someone in the chat last night said, I wonder if David Seymour's asshole ever is jealous by how much shit he talks, which I thought was quite a good rebuttal as well. So guys, there's a like 2 or 3 big things I'd love to talk to you about. Like we'd love to talk to you about, and then there's going to be some other things that I guess come up along the way, including any tips for tanning. But that's 4 times so far. We'll probably leave it at that. And I thought maybe we could start with the quote unquote suspension, the record-setting suspension that apparently you can punch someone literally on the tiles and you don't really get anything, but maybe it's sometimes us monkeys out of Dunedin, us rodeo clowns, kind of put it in a certain way. I'd like to put it to you the way we've been putting it to the audience, and then you can correct us or expand on what we've been saying, because I don't understand it altogether. Because what it seemed like to me was you guys were getting punished for leaving your seats, because there was other people in the house doing haka, right? They didn't get punished. The people who got punished were the ones that left their seats. And then you look at things like Julianne Genter, bless her, love Julianne, left her seat, went across the house, literally touched people's things, said sorry, got nothing. So we're trying to figure out exactly what happened altogether and why the hubbub. Julianne Genter was accused of intimidation, same word, nothing. So can you guys expand on it the way we've been thinking about it and trying to explain it? Tell us we were wrong, tell us we have got it right, and we'd love to hear from you about the overall situation.
Good one. Yep, Rawiri.
Well, awesome to be here this evening, lads. I've seen your podcast come over our social media, which tells me I've got good algorithm on my computer or my phone, which pop up everywhere. That's the first thing, and just to acknowledge our quarter tonight. So, in regards to the suspensions, it's a bit of a head scratcher because we actually do not know why we've been suspended. So, there is the leaving the seats quarter that you've just shared with us. There is the quarter that's come out where they've said we were intimidating. Just to be clear, that maybe half the house was intimidated, the other half was invigorated because they all stood up and supported him. And then
the gallery as well.
And the gallery. And there's other corridor where we stopped a vote. We are the last party to vote in Parliament, so we didn't stand in between anybody else's vote in the House. And so you heard, Judith Collins tell a bit of a fib. Telling, actually, they talked about the no bullshit budget. Well, she made a bullshit comment where she said that we stopped ACT from voting when actually ACT voted 2 votes before us, because it goes ACT, New Zealand first, and then us. And she said this on national radio. So I want to just put it, just to correct everybody, is that we didn't stand in between any other party's vote. We are the last party to vote, and we were still voting. And so the haka was about us doing our vote. So I'm not quite sure what the punishment is. I can tell you the standoff between us and the Privileges Committee. I think that also has a lot to do with it. I think the biggest part of it is having haka and tikanga in the House. Actually repulses some of those MPs, especially the older ones like the Judith Collins. And I think Judith Collins found an opportunity for a bit of revenge, because one of the first hakas I performed in the House when we first went in there in our first 3 years was against her and her racist rhetoric when it came to the He Puapua report as the leader of the opposition at that particular time. And so, just a bit of context around why the heavy 21 days, because that's unprecedented. You've never seen anybody get suspended for 21 days in the whole history of Parliament since 1853. Not even Muldoon, when he misled the whole country about telling a bullshit about a law. He never, he only got 2 to 3 days. And like you said, there are others like Mallard punching Tau Henare out in the foyer, and others who have done some pretty, I believe have been harsher than us. And Julianne Genter, and like you said, I've got a lot of respect for Julianne and what she stands for, her principles and values. But also, I thought that was, more severe than what we did in regards to the House. But hey, bring it on. I'll take the 21 days over an apology any day, because I will not apologise for being Māori, and I will not apologise for accessing the tools of debate that are common or even that we use in our own spaces.
I love that you say for being Māori, because my little mate here sitting beside us, when we talked about this, as I say, as a couple of rodeo clowns, says punishing Māori when they do Māori things, punishing Māori for being Māori. What I hear you saying is you're basically saying, yeah. And we had Tanya on last week, Tanya Waikato.
Great.
And she was basically saying not only was it was okay to do it, it was appropriate, and it was the time it should have been done. So in other words, rather than saying no, don't do, speaking from someone who doesn't really understand it, although we're all trying to learn more, it was the right time to do it. Can you speak to that, to educate some of us who aren't quite so much in the space?
I think that's a really important part of the context, is that, and you heard that in Judith Collins's Judith Colonizer's kōrero, in that, every comment that's been made has been without context. So it hasn't been about, this was one of the worst, probably the worst in our living time bill that has ever come to the House. It was the most, revolting attack to Te Tiriti. So they've deliberately distanced that reaction to something that they were responsible for. So I think there were really two things here that are at debate. One is our tikanga makes them feel extremely uncomfortable, and we are being told that, this is when you're allowed to use it, and this is when you're not. And when it comes from the puku, when it comes from somewhere really deep down inside, in reaction to the politics that we're being exposed to, hundreds of thousands are being exposed to, 300,000 revolted, and broke the system with the Treaty Principles Bill Select Committee process. But the other thing that I think is really important, which we said from day one, we went into a committee that was already fixed. It wasn't neutral. They would never make a jury. And so we knew this, and let's just make it, not call them by their names, but in that committee were people who are putting the most revolting sanctions on our people and benefits on our rangatahi, on our families that are struggling. People who believe in arming up the police, arming up the military, and taking away all the services. Judith Collins was very, very avid, very, very vocal in her anti-equity, anti-the Māori Health Authority, anti-separatist. In fact, she was doing the whole iwi kiwi for years. And so, and then we've got the other person from ACT, who is not like any other amazing immigrant that I know. So, we've got these biases that are already formed, and then of course we've got the old fella, and so we've got this really, and they're fixed in a way that no other committee is, because you've got two from National, you've got the chair, Judith Collins, and then you've got Louise Upson. So it's a really fixed, not neutral committee. And I think, we went into it knowing it. And I guess one of the things that they're trying to do is cover up in their process, act like they're civilized, and put a shot across the bow, not using their finger, and tell us where to go. And we've sort of gone back and told them where to go as well. And I think we have to really see this for what it is. We represent a big threat to what it is that's going on. So this isn't performative. This isn't about, us having a tanny and all the way that the right wings tried to make it look. This is actually about them trying to power up and do what they've done to every other marginalised, disabled, takatapu, rainbow community, and they're pissed because they've been able to get their way, and they haven't with us. And watch for next week. We had Chris Bishop taking a photo of us in our empty seats because we weren't there to meet him in his blue ribbon, budget. Like, you poor Chris. He was in tears. But the reality is, we had asked this government, and we need to be really clear on this. Rawiri and I had put in a letter and asked the business committee not to delay our suspension. So next week, everyone could focus on the budget. We'd get up 50% of our caucus to get ready to do that budget without us. They then set the date. Then on Thursday, Bish comes up and does this, try to save us. It's like, bullshit, Bish. Don't try and... Now, that's performative politics. We're transformative, but that's performative. So yeah, it's my view.
I was
And
just
they're
thinking
using their political violence to cover up Māori.
the
surprise,
shot
surprise.
across the bow, but not finger guns. There's probably a finger you could possibly use to send the signal. I'm just, just thinking out loud, just brainstorming amongst the whānau. That's all. Chewie, jump in, buddy, because I've got a bunch of other stuff here as well. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, first of all, Debs, we've had you on the show before. It's great to have you back. Rawiri, I'm so stoked that you're here, brother. It's great to have the two of you here. As a political tragic, I have been wrapped with the changes that you've brought to the political discussion and in Parliament. I think Te Paati Maori is really exciting for anyone that follows politics, because you are being unapologetically Māori, and that's great to see. There's two things in recent memory that has made me really proud to be from here, and it's the treaty's principles hikoi, and it's Hana standing up in the house and watching that reverberate around the world. I had friends of mine from Europe, from the US going, hey man, we've seen this. What is happening? It's amazing. And I think in a lot of ways, that is part of the reason why they've decided to come out and hit you with this unprecedented punishment. Because it's like, when you embarrass someone in front of their friends and the reaction is always way over whatever you did. That's what this feels like to me. Yeah,
we broke the good China.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I'm sure you've seen it, the comments on social media about what you did and why you didn't, all these reasons. I had someone arguing with me backwards and forwards on Facebook that the reason that the party is you just ripped the paper, which is parliamentary policy, that you stopped the vote or you didn't vote. And it's like, well, the first 6 words out of Hana's mouth were, here are our votes. So none of that is true. And it shows how hard you guys have to fight when there's so much misinformation, when there's so much fragile white fear about what you guys are about and what you guys are doing. I don't know if there's a question in there. That's just some general feedback.
I definitely think you're right. The viral, it going viral, and I'm going to tell you this. We don't tell too many people, but poor Hana was only meant to rip the paper. One of our MPs couldn't get back. And so we're like walking down the corridor, going down the stairs and like walking into the place. And we're like, well, I can't do it. I've got to do the point of order. Well, Rawiri, you've got to do the speech. And Mino, you're going to have to hold our seats in case we get kicked out. And we're all looking at Hana. Well, Hana, you have to be it. I don't know how to start Ngāti Toa's haka. I don't know. We're all going down. Never mind. You just make it up. And at one point, she goes, "Why, Deb? You got it, bub." And I think, I guess that's how we roll, is the organic. So we had a view that, and I know you guys would feel the same. You just can't silently sit there with something like that going on. But a lot of what we do is organic, as much as everyone sort of thinks, it was pre-planned. I mean, the fact that Ngāti Toa all happened to be upstairs, go figure. But, there was a certain degree that was very organic, Rawiri, so.
Yeah, I totally agree. So the haka for us, I am the same as you. I think that was probably in the history of New Zealand politics and Parliament. I think that's going to be one for the history books. We've broken a few records. Near on 100,000 people marched to Parliament, biggest hikoi in the country. Yeah. Over 300 and near on 315,000 people made a submission. That's a record. There was a 360,000 signed a petition to Parliament. That was a record. There were over 1 billion views of the haka. That was a record. And then we've got 21-day suspension. Collectively, it's 49 days. That's a record. So we're the party that breaks records. And so, and the first not to wear ties and the first to wear tonga and, you know, and like Debbie said, people see that as performative, but it's actually transformative. And I don't think we broke the china. We actually broke the willow pattern plate that's in the cabinet. And that is the problem. They were embarrassed, highly embarrassed, that, you know, there was a whole lot of the reaction to the Treaty Principles Bill was underestimated. They underestimated the power of the people, not just Māori, but they underestimated the power of Tangata Treaty. They underestimated the power of Tangata Moana, who turned up and stood in solidarity. And we will do the same for the Regulatory Standards Bill. You know, our people are already starting to band together. They're
already crashing the website.
Already crashing and things like that. So we already know a lot of people are making submissions into that particular part of the process. They only want a 4-week process. You know, they don't want the 6 weeks. So this is his democracy. This is David Seymour's democracy. I know this because we're about to discuss this on Thursday. And that's part of the agenda, is that he only wants a 4-week submissions process and not a 6-week like any other normal bill. And this is just how he operates. And he wants it to get over the line by September, when he actually said he talked about the end of November. So he's retracting on a few things. So, you know, I'm just saying context is a big thing in terms of understanding why we've done those things. The Treaty Principles Bill was about changing the principles and the articles of the Tiriti o Waitangi. The Regulatory Standards Bill is about annihilating it altogether.
Yeah. We kind of found it incredibly ironic when they gave you your day's suspension, when they offered that out there, that we'd been talking, I think the week before, about the disproportionate way the courts treat Māori, you know, for the same crimes, you know, getting like more percentage-wise, more non-Māori use cannabis, more Māori get arrested and convicted for use of cannabis. For the same crime, Māori get are twice as likely to get jail time, etc. And then the week after we talked about that comes this punishment to you guys, which is a massive disproportionate response to almost the same crime, like Julianne you know, Julianne Genter, the intimidating. It's like it just echoed everything to us that you see right through, shall I say the word, institutionalized areas in the country at the moment. How do you guys deal with that when you're sitting in the seats of power?
Yeah, I don't know that we do deal with it. Like I said, we know we have this this mask of humour that we put on to carry ourselves. We'll even cry, and you know, and you saw tears, and it was a really raw, vulnerable moment for us. You know, we do what we can, tikanga Māori, to keep ourselves protected in that space. But you know, we were elected to be heard and not hidden. And I think, you know, what we've continued to see is a government that just doesn't have any aroha for tangata whenua. And I think, you know, that's, you know, we can, you know, lay all the jokes that we want to, you know, they are, the 21-day, you know it and I know it, is disproportionate because it's psychological warfare. And we are dealing with this whole, they are embarrassed. So what do? What does the colonial construct do? It does over, you know, penalizes us, it silences us, it actually, you know, all the language, oh, we're going to hurt them in the pocket, don't pay them, all this sort of stuff. We've seen this play out before. They're using all the same tactics. But I guess the difference for us is that we can call it out, like we know what's coming at us. So we warned everybody this would be disproportionate. Why? Because the committee was stacked to start with. It was never neutral. And, you know, all we've got is 21 days is actually nearly a third of a sitting block. I don't know if you guys know that. But this is what you do when you're intimidated. The stuff that Winston's thrown about, you know, us as wahine is in, are you real? Are you Māori enough? That's all about psychological warfare. It's old games. And we're just, I guess we're really lucky because we get out of Wellington as quick as we can, a bit like you guys, and, you know, live in communities that, you know, don't give a hoot who we are and tell us to pick up a flag and get there and save the seabed. But, you know, so we get out of there and they keep you real. But we need to be really, really clear in what's coming and what's raining down at us. And it is psychological warfare, where these two themes of justice, one for us and another for them. So they can swear, they can drive a Land Rover up, they can shepherd pedophiles, they can do whatever they bloody want. And they have been. And I think that's where it's at. And we just continue to because this is what Atlas capitalism looks like. So we just continue to talk to ourselves and keep ourselves well, and show our vulnerabilities every now and then, cry, laugh, have a kai, and then, step up and have interviews with guys like you that we can sort of see that are out there, our allies, taking the hits and stepping up and being bold and having those conversations that sometimes are better off with others who aren't Māori.
Just finally on the suspension, the other thing that happens to Māori, as we just talked about disproportionately, is being jailed. How do you reflect on some ACT MP who I actually heard in an interview today kind of walking it back, but, investigating the idea of imprisoning a fellow MP for what I'm calling the crime of getting out of their seat?
Yeah. I think the fact that it went there is, again, a real sign of how dangerous and how violent this government is. And we have to do everything we can to get them out. You're seriously, and for a little bit there, well, actually for a lot of it towards the end, and I think if you guys are really clever, you can see where Rawiri and I butted in and took the heat away from Hannah because they were just coming for her. And so we did things that we knew would really piss them off. As leaders, that's what you have to do. Yeah. And what we could see is that it wasn't just about being humiliated and embarrassed. It's actually this whole new generation of people coming through that they just don't get, so they don't want them to grow. The fact that that committee went there and wanted, and I don't know actually if the advice came back to see how they could imprison us. They never have that sort of power, but to think they do is crazy.
Well, the advice coming back should have been, what the fuck are you talking about? That should have been the only advice coming back.
We keep saying this, sorry, Darby, but we keep saying this. If that's what they're doing to us and we're pretty profiled, imagine what's happening to our rangatahi, to our Māori, to those behind closed doors, to those on the streets. And that's why, our aroha, and when we get emotional, it's for the fact that they have no love for Māori.
Yikes. That's a heavy thing to think about. Chewie, you got anything else you want to talk about to do with the suspension in particular? Or should we track and get moving?
I just want to touch on, and this is echoed throughout the chat, just as we're talking about Hannah and that sort of thing. That's one of the things that we were really conscious of, with her being so prominent in that, and being quite prominent in a few other interactions in Parliament. Her retort to Winston a few months beforehand, again, so righteous. But it obviously puts her out there. And being so young and being another wahine in Parliament, and we know that Parliament chews brown women up and spits them out. I just want to say that we have noticed how protected she is within Te Paati Maori, and we wanted there for a long time. So yeah, please pass on our huge support and respect for what she's been doing in the House. I think she is a perfect representative for the next generation of very politically turned on, very activated Māori leaders coming through. And it is, I think this is one of the things that people like David Seymour are scared about. They have lost a generational battle, and they don't know what to do with it. And that's why everything has been turbocharged. And it's just like, we're going to use every dirty trick in the book to get the RSB bill through, because if we don't do it now, it's never going to happen.
Hey, Chewie,
we're going to stop it.
Can I just pick up on a point you just made there? They've lost
a
generational battle. I think that is a key point to the discussion this evening, because he believed he was the new liberal type, appealing to younger voter party, when in actual fact he's appealing more to the boomer type rhetoric, right? And if you have a look at the election in Australia, and I've said this publicly and also in Canada, that was a last ditch effort by the boomers. And that has now gone.
Yeah.
And so what you've got is, I believe, right now is a last ditch effort. Winston Peters and also David Seymour, who represents now that type of rhetoric. If you can hear it in their speak, you can see it in their policies, you can see it in their legislation. They have walked away from the generations that they thought they had appeal to, and have now followed a kind of boomer type thought process where they are anti-woman, anti-rainbow, anti-working class, anti-middle class, anti-poor, anti-climate, anti-Māori, anti-treaty. All of these anti-things is absolutely despicable, first of all, but it is the politics that he's chosen to follow, and he has lost that generational battle, I believe. And I thought that was a good point. I just wanted to pick that up. I thought that was an awesome point.
No, thanks.
I also want to pick up something that you've just said, Deb, and it kind of ties into what you're saying, Chewie, as well. You talked about Atlas capitalism and watching Atlas work around the world and watching Atlas work in places like Australia with The Voice. I'm interested in your take because it seems like the New Zealand public have a different response to Indigenous issues here than any of those other countries. And I wonder if you see us as maybe, are we slightly more optimistic as the impact Atlas could have in this country, because the voters aren't going to quite do the same as what they did in Australia, because Australia has a very different relationship, between non-Indigenous and Indigenous people. Are we quote unquote safer? I'm not saying we're safe, but are we safer from those kind of inputs because of our relationship with Māori, even for non-Māori?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if being Māori has ever had a word like safe attached to anything that we are. What I am seeing, though, is, again, it comes back to that generational change. I live in a 3-generational home. And so my growth, my music taste, everything is hugely influenced by the 2 generations. Shush your mouth. My music's great. Is Doshi, nothing wrong with it. Anyway, so I have 2 generations that influence me, and it really is. I am so grateful, and I then see others who are in an older generation who have no generations around them who aren't influenced. Where I'm going with this is that I actually think that the younger generations influence the amount that we have within Te Ao Māori, obviously, are more younger. The natural respect that we have with our elderly brings a really good marriage of, hey, this is how we roll, this is how we influence. I think that those who don't have a strong culture, those who maybe have other heritage but they've only been brought up around here, lean more towards the joy and the discovery of being tangata tiriti, and they lean more in towards their Māori culture, in towards their tangata whenua, in towards what we really see Aotearoa's fabric has been, and that includes getting educated about te tiriti. So, and I see some of my friends who are 50 plus who have never been raised around tiriti. They're not in the boomer age group, but they have got their rangatahi, and together they're influencing their elderly. Yes. So I think what we've got is a couple of things: a class battle, where we've got, and we've seen it with this government. It's only ever worried about, the billionaires, not the bros. And then we've got those others who have got nothing else in their life except this starkness and this real sterile living. So therefore they have lost the ability to be extended and to grow. So I think I agree. I think the reason that I will really fight to keep the balance and peace in Aotearoa is because of Te Riti, is because it is everywhere. And we have somewhere else to go, which was one of the hardest things, I think, for Australia. But when we can have a government like this come in 18 months and take out as much as they have, that's a real threat. And I think, Darby and I have talked about when we get into the next government after we take these clowns out, one of the things we have to do is actually be really emphatic with those that we're in relationships with, is that you had good intent, but you didn't embed it. You had this, but you didn't embed it. And we've got to stop this political, appeasing and compromising tiriti. And I think that's some of the stuff that we're seeing is that just as many tangata tiriti as tangata whenua turned up to the hikoi, 300,000 plus submissions, just as many tangata tiriti as there were tangata whenua. And I think I'm really heartened by that. Sorry, I wasn't meant to make that a long answer.
It was fine.
No, we like long answers here.
I
Sorry.
was
Space for long answers.
I was wondering though from that.
Can I just add something very quickly to the Atlas Quarter?
Sure.
Are you going to carry on with that, or you've got another question?
No, you go, man.
Oh yeah, just to add to that. Today I put out a bit of a whakapapa. You follow the money, and it will reveal itself. And so there have been huge amounts of donations made to the ACT Party.
Yeah.
And if you have a look at the whakapapa of the ACT Party to Atlas, it's quite easy to see. So they're one of their founding members. And has been a president, one of their founding members of the ACT Party, and we're talking about Alan Gibb. He's made substantial donations to ACT, and that's okay because he was, he's part of the ACT Party, and so did his wife Dame Jenny Gibb. Also has made donations to the party. But what is a startling revelation is that their daughter was the chair of the board, Debbie Gibb, named.
Get my name back.
Get my name out of your mouth. So, was the chair of the board of Atlas Global in New York, and so you can see that the influence of the policies, the neoliberal kind of policies coming out of ACT are very, very Atlas right-wing think tank type policies, where you prioritize the privilege of private property over public good. Also, foreign right-wing models that they use in America at the expense and ignores the tiriti o Waitangi, and the shifts of power from elected parliament to unelected judges and corporate interests. You can see all of this starting to build up and build out. And so this is exactly what younger Aotearoa, and I'm talking about tangata whenua and tangata tiriti, these younger people are intelligent, they are sophisticated, they are strategic, they know exactly what is happening, and they are woke. Like this government is anti-woke, but they are woke, whether they like it or not. They are awake, and they are woke, and they understand what's happening. And they are strategic enough to know that they do not want that type of politics here in Aotearoa. You can just see what's happening over there in America with Trump, Elon Musk, even some of the rhetoric coming out of there that there's a genocide of white farmers over in South Africa. It's better to watch. It's better to watch Ibrahim Traore over in Burkina Faso.
Oh yeah,
and what he's doing over there, absolutely awesome, wonderful stuff. And it's about time that. That people woke up to what is actually really happening and the influences that we're getting internationally, and the policies and the manifestos that have been pushed through Parliament at this particular time by this right-wing fascist government are very, very Atlas type Trumpish type policies, and we don't want that. We don't want this free world type ideology here in Aotearoa where people can come and do what they want here. And that you benefit their policies that benefit international corporations to exploit Aotearoa, because the tiriti o Waitangi actually protects that. It protects all of us. It protects our whenua, and it protects, and I mean all of us as in the whole of Aotearoa, from international greed and corporate exploitation. That's one.
And if you bounce off that, sorry, the deregulation, the privatisation, the anti-Indigenous policies, the weakening of collective rights, all that affiliates to Atlas. And you know how they've crafted it? In austerity regimes, whether it be across Blinken, Latin America, First Nations rights in Canada, Australia, and that whole promotion of colonial economics dressed up as freedom. And it's the same way we saw this with this recent budget, austerity for everyone else, but abundance for them. It's the same notion, and I remember when I first called it out, and I think Jack Tame, I can't remember, because we'd been sitting on this for a while, and I said, nah, stuff it, Deb, you're going to go for it. And I tell you, I said about 3 or 4 times, and not once would they pick up on the Atlas agenda. And I love, as I already said, that we talk about it freely. So we don't normally have, we don't say yes to a whole lot of people for interviews because we find that often it's as stifling as being in the house. We've heard things come out of this show which really encourages us to wānanga. And I think it's really important we identify what it is. Again, the Regulatory Standards Bill, as I already said, is Atlas 101.
Yeah. Oh, look, that's also very kind of you, Deb. You know, as I've said a couple of times, we're just a couple of bullheads in the bottom of the South Island, and we want to do our bit, and we want to open the door for people who know more. You know, we like being the dumbest people in the room because then we can get other people coming on and giving us the tea, so to speak, or the education. I think most people watching right now, although there'll be a few crunchies in there, I guarantee, but most people watching right now are just here to listen and learn. You know, and that's all we want to do as well. And we just, I guess, are lucky enough to have put some time into building a platform that allows us to get people to listen and learn for others as well. So thank you for that. It's kind. I might actually just throw a couple. Sorry, Joe.
Oh, sorry, just real quick. One of my favorite reactions from people that stumble across us is, you know, we'll put up a video that's like, oh, something Te Tiriti related or that sort of thing. And then there's a thumbnail of me and Pat, two big beardy white guys. And you just see people come into the chat and you just see like confused comments from both sides. From Māori going, this is not what I expected. I came in here for war. And then also the other side of like, well, this isn't what I expected. I thought these people would have my back, but I'm getting beaten out of the chat. What's going on? I love that.
Yeah.
We have crunchies come onto our social media all the time. And
I bet.
Yeah, they're so lost. I'm like, what
the problem
are you
is that
doing
they
here?
use you stop using the victimhood mentality. They throw the insult, scribble face, barcode. You walk around the barcode on your face.
Always original, right?
Yeah, it's
Always original.
Haven't heard that one.
And all that type of stuff. And the problem is that the system and the government is doing them over as well.
Yeah.
And so this current government, all their policies are there to suit the 3%, right? The 3% that control 70% of the country's wealth. And everybody else is being done over.
Yeah.
But every time you attack the system or the government, they over-identify themselves with the system and the government. And so they think that we're personally attacking them or we're personally attacking Pākehā. It's not that at all. When we attack the system and the government, we're attacking the system and the government for allowing these neoliberal type policies and lawmaking to go through that suits the 3% that control 70% of the country's wealth. That's who we're attacking.
Yeah.
And so, and the problem is people come in and they attack us and they're being done over. They're having to pay between 20 and 25% tax while the rich get to pay 9%. Some of them are paying no percent. You've got tax evasion costing this country $7 billion a year. You've got people who, you've got landlords that receive $3 billion.
284,000 empty homes. 284,000 empty homes.
That's 2 homes per every homeless person in this country. Yeah. You've got Māori who are dying 10 to 7 years earlier than everybody else. And so while we're attacking the system, you've got people coming out because they over-identify themselves with the system. And I feel sorry for them. But they're protecting the 3% who will benefit, right? Who will benefit from this government's legislative changes more than anybody else. And so nobody else is fighting for the 3%, for the 97%.
Yeah.
No.
But the 3% has been protected and fought by this right-wing government as we speak.
Boom. So we need a wealth tax. We have the solution for you. We need our wealth tax. And those allies with us on the other, they need to support our wealth tax. Otherwise, this is going to continuously go on and poverty is going to continually be a political decision.
Yeah.
Don't get me going. You don't want to get me going.
We do. That's the whole point. We do want to get you going. I was at Waitangi on Waitangi this year.
Yeah, I did hear you out there.
Yeah, and everyone, I think it should be our mecca. Everyone should get there at least once on Waitangi Day. And when you were just talking then, what you were describing is about people voting against their own self-interest. And we see that in America very clearly with, poor rural white Americans voting for Trump, for example.
Mm.
Chloe said something from the debate stage up there where she said, if you don't do politics, like if you don't get involved, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. And I went, yeah, that's, you know, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
You'll get done. If you don't get involved, you're going to get run over, basically. And I thought that was a very succinct bumper sticker that would go quite well on a t-shirt.
It is. I mean, I think when we've got a government that's just so fixated on making life easy, you know, it's got billions for landlords, and then it's got these huge luxury tax cuts, but just bloody crumbs debating over, you know, our school lunches. And, you know, it's not budgeting. What we're experiencing at the moment is some of the most supreme economic violence that I think we've ever known. And I hear them sort of carry on about this was that and this was that. Yeah, well, actually, we can't compare anything to during the COVID period because that was just like off the radar.
Yeah.
But when you look at where they're going, and I think the way that Nicola Willis and actually Chris Bush, all of them just lying through the bloody gaps in their teeth, is that there's me on oral health again. It's pretty disheartening, and we have to really have those, you know, staunch discussions about how we're going to repeal and fix this up immediately. Yeah. Like, I know people say 100 days, like, bro, you've got to have a 100-hour plan because, you know, what we've seen with the pay equity going on, and, you know, what we're seeing with the continual way that they took that off, billions off a woman, but then sort of had 1.7 billion for corporate tax, all this crap. Anyway, long story short, I think we need to be able to have a lot of discussions about what it is that typical people in Aotearoa want. And I don't think we do that enough. So when Chloe talks about, you know, do politics where politics does you, actually, I think we need to say, do Aotearoa. And what we all want Aotearoa to look like, and what it should have been like had the tiriti been honoured, because people would have been looked after a lot better.
I think what would be a nice time to ask about the budget now. We're producing Craig Rennie's podcast as well. He does a weekly podcast now. We produce it for him. I was talking to him today doing some recording, and I said, I got Deb and Rawiri on tonight. What should I ask them? And he was like, and he went, 88 million taken out of Māori development, loss of Māori housing, loss of Māori economic growth programs, funding cut from Māori education, funding cut for te reo, funding cut for Māori experts programs, hauora Māori, nothing in health, bowel cancer screening gone, Māori unemployment at 10.5%, pay equity disproportionately affecting Māori and Pacifica.
Māori Pacifica, yep.
Would you like to add anything more to that wonderful list?
I mean, I think first of all, this, you know, when we talk about Tama and the Māori development minister, or Minister of Māori Undevelopment, this is the worst, the most regressive, and the least that we've ever seen in the history of having that role allocated towards Vote Māori. And, you know, when we've seen everything that was addressing equity, because again, you don't talk equity, you don't invest equity when you're in denial of the history and te tiriti. So, you know, it's all sort of running a chain reaction. But it is gut-wrenching to see. And I sort of said, somebody said, oh, yeah, this and a budget. So, well, no, it's not a budget. It's actually a boot to the guts, a boot to the neck of those who are struggling, which is, like Rawiri said, most of those that are in Aotearoa are really struggling. So, yeah, it's just been really tough. They've gutted Māori health. They've cut kura funding, they've slashed frontline services, and, you know, also the rich can get a break. And again, I keep saying that's not economic, that's theft. We're continuously seeing the government do what it did in 1840, 1860, 1870 here in Taranaki. It's legalising theft against those who have the least and are contributing. So yeah, and I guess we've got to make sure that we don't let them gaslight us, because they're not. Didn't you say this, Rawiri? They're not tightening the belt. I'm sorry, but they're tightening the noose, and it's really cruel. It's really cruel. We talk about this often. You know, Rawiri's got a tupuna, and we talk about how, you know, where the tightening's happening, and it's rugged, and you know, they are just so damaging. The trauma that they're creating, that I see here out in the ground in South Taranaki, is rugged, really rugged.
My contribution on the budget is based on based on our population, we're now 1 million. We're 20% of the country's population. Māori received under 1% of the budget. They get to spend $180 billion a year, to service the government's agenda. If I was to work out 20%, it's about 36 billion, at least, but we got under 1%. It's 0 point something, 0.2 or some bloody thing like that, if you were to work it out. So there's not much to talk about the budget, other than we got stuff all. We didn't even get the crumbs. And quite often, these governments, and I've used the analogy
or the sprinkles.
Before, national, Labour will give you the crumbs on the plate, Māori, and say, here's your crumbs, but they say, we will feed it to you. National will say, we'll have the same plate with the same crumbs on it and say, go over there and eat it. But this time, that same plate, they blew on it and blew most of the crumbs off it, and there's bugger all on it, and wherever they eat and bugger all. And so that's the analogy I use quite often. And for Māori, that's our reality. That is just our reality. We never ever get it proportional to our population, or even proportional to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Never.
Or I'd say proportional to the Māori benefit to the economy, which the Māori economy is, the figure often quoted is $160 billion.
Yep.
But again, the multiplier effect of that. No, it's not. But the multiplier effect of that also, because for Māori, the economy isn't just about productivity and dollars, just like GDP doesn't measure the well-being of a community. For for us as Māori, when you cut away whānau ora or hau ora services, basically those who are on the ground, who have their eye on their region, who are able to go away from the hau ora, from the public health system, they take the weight away from the public health system. They actually stop the bottlenecking that's going on in the public health system, and they do the rest of Aotearoa a huge favour. They don't just look after, you're Māori, so you ignore everyone else. Never. In fact, we have an iwi services here, which is 51% Māori, 49% non. The point is, the minute you take away those who are forever people in their communities from being part of solutions, whether it be in a hau ora, whānau ora, kura kaupapa way, you've actually taken everyone back to the front door of the service that was failing, that isn't open for them, and then you create this huge crumble. And we've seen it in emergency services. So go figure. They've taken all the frontline Māori services. They've cut the Māori vaccinations. They've cut the whānau ora services. Oh, what's that you say? The A&E services are crumbling because you've got a big waiting list. They can't get through. Really? People are getting, now serviced in the corridors. Wow. I wonder why. Because all those who are around, the little microsystem, the ecosystems around those big, hospitals, you've taken them away. And so, there's this whole denial of where those businesses who are Māori community run belong in the bigger ecosystem. We saw it during COVID. What happened? Iwi went out. They mobilized out. They went into their communities. And you know what they did? They took the weight off the hospital system. The hospital was able to then deal with acute issues. It's just stupid that their bigot behavior can't see how it works well on the ground. But I can't. Is that right, Simeon? So people are now not able to get through A&E because it's bottlenecked. Well, who created the bottleneck? You moved the Māori health services out of the way. You cut whānau ora. You cut hau ora. You cut all those that are on the ground. Go figure.
And then they give 50 million to the private sector to help with the backlog, whereas we've been told by Dr. Gary Pinder, that if they put that 50 million just back into public health, you'll be able to hire nurses and doctors and pay for Saturday work and actually clear the backlog anyway. But they get funded into their mates at the private.
They gave to the military. So they've invested $12 billion into the military. They could have been better spent on the services that Debbie has talked about. What are we doing? $12 billion in the bigger scheme of things, of the global wars that are happening at this particular time. What are we doing? We're loading our cannons up with kumaras to shoot.
Who are we fighting? Who are we fighting? I want to know who our enemy is. Who are we fighting? Because we're not stopping the bloody murdering going over in Gaza. Who are we fighting? Who's our enemy?
We're probably one of our biggest trading partners, because big brain stuff there.
Seriously, seriously, honestly.
Let me bounce something off you. But only because you brought up the defence thing, and I think we need to, if we've got 50-year-old machinery, yoke up that or whatever. But the thing that we couldn't understand when they're saying there's no money in the pot is when Judith Collins said this about the money for defence.
Look, the money will be found because it has to be found.
So that was it. That was what she said. And then she also said same thing. She says this.
So it's it's a lot of money, but it's needed.
It's a lot of money, so it's needed. So
I'll
they
tell you what's
magic it
needed.
up.
What's needed is for them to use their bloody political diplomacy, their political power, and let the aid get through to Gaza and sanction freaking Israel. And here we are allowing that. Oh, we need the money. It's like, well, who are you fighting, Judith? Because
who are you supporting? That's the big question.
That's right.
Who are you supporting?
And what's the consequences? Like, we're allowing all these things coming into Aotearoa, and all watch them, they're baddies, and all these guys are TikTok's evil. Well, then who are you fighting? Because are you telling me that we're on the side of a team that's complicit in a genocide? Because honestly, that makes me sick to my guts.
We're just a proxy to America.
Yeah.
If you have a look at it, Five Eyes.
I know, I've abused it.
All of those types of things, and those old white economies are done. We shouldn't be going there. I would rather go and have a meeting with China. The bloody clothes I'm wearing right now, and the clothes you fellas are wearing right now, are probably made in China. Debbie's cup is probably made in China. Her hair straightener, her tanning lotion, all of those types of things.
I got it in there.
Violent rhetoric.
Five.
I had to have one. But to Paati Maori have been calling for Aotearoa to be military neutral. The Switzerland of the South Pacific, and we need to be looking after each other here in the Pacific, and ensuring that that there is no military influence by the Americans or even by China or anybody else. Is that we need to be ring fencing. Pera noi te kuri hari te mia tana whenua. Like a dog goes around and thinks it's territory. We need to be doing that as the Pacific and actually looking after each other. But we don't need to be inciting that type of rhetoric where $12 billion has been spent on the military when we've got failing health system, we've got a failing education system, we've got a failing social development system, housing system. Like Debbie said, 200 and something thousand houses empty. 250,000 houses empty here in Aotearoa. That's one house for 2 homeless people living in Aotearoa right now. It is ridiculous amount of empty houses here in Aotearoa. So being military neutral, I think, is what we should be thinking about as Aotearoa. That's the Paati Maori's military position, is that we should be the Switzerland of the South Pacific.
Yep.
And we shouldn't be, bulking up the Americans, the Australians, the Canadians, and the English in regards to any of these wars and being a proxy for any of those countries. We should, our mana mutahake, this is what mana mutahake is about, is that Aotearoa should be its own person in this particular space. We should be sending a message to the rest of the world. We're far enough away from everybody. The Japanese, the Chinese have never, ever threatened Aotearoa. Those are just myths that they used in World War II to make us afraid of those particular countries. And now they could be the biggest economic benefit to Aotearoa heading into the future. We're talking about China, we're talking about Brazil, we're talking about India, we're talking about Africa. If Ibrahim Traore is starting to kick everybody out, the French, the Americans, from exploiting their raw materials that makes cobalt, that makes all the things with the devices that we're working on tonight. This is a game changer. This is a game changer. And so Aotearoa needs to be ready to start looking at talking to some of those countries and starting to build those relationships. And I tell you what will get us through the door is Māori culture will get us through the door. Because economics is not just about cents and dollars. Economics now in those particular economies is about cultural capital. It's about spiritual capital, because all of those countries have huge spiritual and cultural capital that they want to be able to ensure we start to move into in regards to, and we will take the rest of Aotearoa with us. We're not leaving anybody behind. No way. No way.
I like to
We
leave
will
a
take
couple.
the whole country with us.
Oh,
We will
no.
take the whole country with us.
Couple. I'd like to leave
leave a
behind.
couple behind. Yeah. Well, we'll put them in the cannons with the kumaras and fire them off with your fingers. Because,
I'm sorry you're not on the list.
I know, but I wish that we could have a discussion about the billions of dollars we're putting into renewable energy, so that our families could and our communities could have some localized community solution-fied, I made that word up, power and energy options, because at the moment 60+% of our power has been imported. Our whānau can't afford to keep the lights on. They're struggling during winter. I wish that we could have that kind of debate, like, hey, this is where we would like to see ourselves progressing with our natural resources, progressing ahead. But instead, I just feel like we've just gone back to some really long, it's like it's been in this horrible, not that I can relate, but a one-night stand that never ends. And, you just keep thinking, how are we there? Are we there yet? And it's just, there's nothing. And even if, just like I didn't hate the right wing, just say that, actually, I can't imagine it, but let's just say I didn't. There is nothing transformational that is coming from them. Okay, we're going to power up in military because that's what right-wing governments do. They're nowhere have they embraced what could be transformational for us and make everyone else's lives easier, including businesses. I think that's the frustrating part about it. Is that I just feel like we're stuck in some Doctor Who, time zone that you never get out of. I actually never watched Doctor Who, by the way. But yeah, what was that word?
So,
Back to the Future.
Sorry. Yeah.
Jay Fox.
So, just hopefully a quick question here. You've got you guys and the Greens and the big dog Labour, and as I guess we talk about it on the show, is Labour's got a lot of inertia behind it, right? They're nominally supposed to be a left-wing workers' party. They haven't been there for years, and you've got you and the Greens tugging on them to get some action.
Wealth tax.
Wealth tax. How does that functionally work? Like, you obviously share the workplace with them. You talk to these guys all the time. What's it like being a more left-wing party trying to pull the big dog to the left where they should be? What is the feedback or the reaction that you get from Labour in that space?
I use the analogy like the Paati Maori. If you look at a wharenui, if have you been onto the marae and you look at the wharenui and you've got the two barge boards that come down the side, those are called the mahi. And I always say that National are the right mahi and Labour are the left mahi. I always believe, because the most tapu part of the wharenui is the kōruru, and that's the carved part in the middle. And I always believe that the Paati Maori sat there. And so, and our job is to ensure that, that the mahis on both sides are being held accountable. And so at this particular time, our people have always seen, I think, a better marriage between the Paati Maori, the Greens, and Labour, which never has happened because, in actual fact, Labour never wanted us. The Paati Maori came out of a fallout of Labour when Tariana crossed the floor. And so if we have a look at it, what the hell is her name? Helen Clark. How could you forget that name? Helen Clark. Auntie Helen didn't want the Māori Party, right? And so Tariana had done a deal with John Key and gone that way with National. And Jacinda Ardern didn't want the Paati Maori in the last government either. And so, the Paati Maori kind of left out there flapping in the wind, and they didn't want us either. What we've got is an opportunity for a left-leaning government, which will include the Paati Maori, whether they like it or not. And we will ensure that we hold very strong pro-worker, pro-middle-class, pro-tiriti, and pro-Aotearoa hou type policies, and any government that we sit in. And we work with with anybody that wants to work towards a tiriti-centric Aotearoa. If you're not willing to work towards a tiriti-centric Aotearoa, we're not interested in working with you. And so everybody is clear. We've been absolutely clear about that in the past. And so if Labour are prepared, and we know that the Greens are prepared to work towards a tiriti-centric Aotearoa, absolutely. And Labour are prepared to work to a tiriti-centric Aotearoa is everybody is fed, everybody is housed, everybody is cared for, and everybody is welcomed. And so this is what we are pushing in terms of our Aotearoa Hau. And so this is how we see ourselves. We are the kōruru on that whare. We sit in the middle, and we will make sure that everybody is looked after. I'm not saying middle as in how they see New Zealand politics, right, left, middle.
Not centrist.
Not centrist, absolutely not. But what we're saying is that we are balanced. We will make sure that we use it. There you go. And so see that fellow in the middle there? That's Debbie. They thought it was a gun, and it's not. It was a spear. That's when she's using her fingers. And so, the kōruru is that middle part there, and the tiko sits up on the top there. That's where we believe we sit. And we must always sit there because we've got to keep the governments, any government, whether we're in opposition, whether we're in government, we've got to make sure that they're doing the right thing for everybody and that nobody gets left behind.
You've touched on one of the questions I was going to ask you, Rawiri, which is the John Key, Peter Sharples, Tariana Turia deal. Looking back on that now, no one can imagine this Te Paati Maori working with this national government. Now, Debbie might have just lost her connection, I'm guessing. Why was that a mistake back then? Did it work back then? What's the difference? What's the change between Peter Sharples, Tariana Turia, John Key, and you guys and Luxon? What's the difference as you see it?
I'll use a comment Luxon made in the House one time. He says, unfortunately, that Māori party isn't the same Māori party that Tariana, you've heard him say that Tariana Turia and Peter Sharples led. Well, I've got something back to him. That's not the Labour Party that John Key and Bill English led, right? Not that I'm saying they were any better, but what I'm saying is that they were willing to give Te Paati Maori a chance, and whānau ora came out of that particular coalition. What we're seeing now is a national party under Luxon. We could never work with the current national party, and definitely I can categorically tell you right now. There she goes. Welcome back to Māori. And I can categorically and confidently say that the Paati Maori will never ever work with any government that has ACT in it. Absolutely. And
you didn't get that question, did you?
Yes, I did. So sorry. I know you wanted to answer this question. Yeah, under this current national government, we can never work with them, but we will never ever sit around the table. Whilst I am in Te Paati Maori, never ever work with David Seymour and their party. I don't know whether somebody else leaves the space, but I can't.
Chloe got a very similar question on, I believe it was Q&A the other week of yes. Would the Greens ever work with National? I think that the natural answer to that question is not this National Party.
Yeah, that was 30 with Guy and Espiner, 30.
Yeah, there was the Guy and Espiner one. Because what in there suggests that with any of the policies that they've done, that their work is compatible with yours? Like, when we talk about the Māori Party, as you said, with Peter Sharples and that sort of thing, that decision to go with National, in my mind, was shocking, but it made sense, coming out of Helen Clark's government that was in a race to see who could be the most racist, her or Don Brash, with the seabed and foreshore. It's the weirdest fucking thing, and it's a black stain against Auntie Helen's fucking record, and I'll never forget it. But
let's hope she's watching tonight, Chewie, and we've asked her to come on.
Yeah, no, I'll pull my head into my hoodie.
I think Labor needs to have the likes of us around them, as uncomfortable as I can see that we make Chippy at times, and I get that because we are very confident in who we are. We're very confident in our politics. We've also taken a large chunk, 90% of the Māori seats, and there's nothing to suggest that that won't grow. So I get that discomfort, and then we've sort of got like the traditional old school politicians like Willie, who sort of believe we can get it back based on the 2017 experience. If you were to sit there and say, where does Te Paati Maori belong in this? There's a couple of incidents I can give just quickly. If you remember the COVID response, even though Labor had the Māori Health Authority that they were legislating, they actually ran a one-stop shop public health response. And it was the Māori who then suddenly went out and did the road blocks and the road checks, and then Māori who then immobilised out in their regions, and then they showed how you could vaccinate, and they showed how we could go out and do saliva testing. We showed how we could mobilise and set up very quickly our own on-the-ground infrastructure when the public health response was missing. When Jacinda, Chewie and Bloomfield were making decisions about our tikanga and our tangihanga, we showed how we could adapt and do things when we were being told they're going to have warrantless researchers on marae. My point is that was very quick, it was very innovative, and it actually helped the government with a very successful COVID response, which they then used as their campaign strategy for the 2020 election. They smashed it, had a red wave. Our role is that was not Labour innovation. In fact, those ministers came to us, and Rawiri and I know this because we were on the front line in our own areas. That is where Te Paati Maori works in politically. We are the agile, the probably a lot more risky than them, but actually we made their COVID response look internationally successful.
That's right.
The second round, after 2020, they stuffed up themselves. So, the way they ran the mandates, they stuffed that up themselves because they refused to learn the lessons of 2020 and 2021. In a tax situation, we would demand that Chewie contemplates and endorses a wealth tax because too many of our people are being hurt. The way that we've got the pay equity issues, in environment sense, we would absolutely demand that they do things like, ban seabed mining, which they've now suddenly agreed to after they've let this crew through. So my point is that while the Greens have a great, they are an ally party, we are a tangata whenua party. And whether they like it or not, Māori are coming more towards us. And you look at Hannah, there's more Hannah. I mean, she's unique. She's just phenomenal. But she has been raised where so many others in their communities have been raised, confident, beautiful and humble. Because I need to also say that our wahine is very humble. And so very respectful of elderly, hardworking. She's one of the most hardworking MPs in the House. So my point is, that is the value added that Labour get if we choose to go with them.
How are you guys going for time? You've been so generous. I would really like to touch on the regulatory standards bill, but that could be another, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, that's important.
He's the expert there.
And if it's okay with you guys, it might be nice, Chewie, for us to get a couple of the chats that have gone through, and just at the very end wrap up. There's lots of people who want to say hi, sort of thing, and maybe we could just do 5 minutes of that at the end. Is that okay?
Cool.
All right. So we had Tanya Waikato on last week, throwing down exactly what the regulatory standards bill was and why it should be opposed. You guys are here. You guys are in the House. You guys are obviously contributing to the conversation from within Parliament. Tell us about it. Tell us what we need to know.
Well, I'm not the expert on it, and I would probably know just as much about it on an equal playing field. But Tanya Waikato probably would have broken it down in regards to the regulatory standards bill. What we've got is that this is not even the Chewie Principles Bill 2.0. It's not that at all. What we've got is the absolute annihilation of the Tiriti o Waitangi from legislation. What it does is it puts the power into the hands of the Attorney General, and we're talking about Judith Collins again, and the regulatory minister, the Minister for Regulation, David Seymour. It actually takes away the power of Parliament to make those decisions once that regulatory standard goes through. And so even the legislators who are democratically voted into Parliament also lose the ability to be able to change some of the laws that the regulatory standards bill will have influence over. What it also does is it privileges private property over public good, like health, the environment, and even Māori and Indigenous rights. It weakens or blocks laws that has Te Tiriti o Waitangi in there that Māori interests have over there. And I have concerns over treaty settlements. I have concerns over treaty settlements if they make changes to the RMA, if they make changes to some of the resource management stuff when it comes to seabed mining, deep sea oil drilling, and even some of the conservation stuff. It also, there's a huge heavy weight on, foreign wing models that I mentioned before that ignores Te Tiriti o Waitangi. So international exploitation of our country will become a very, very real reality for us. You can see it through fast tracking now. You can see it that they're going to get a tax break. Oil companies that come in here and do their business. We're only going to make 2% back profit on any of those oil companies. Tobacco lobbyists, all of those people are going to be prioritized over the collective rights of Aotearoa. I'm not talking about just collective rights of Māori, but collective rights of Aotearoa. But what it does, again, it just puts the power of elected parliament to unelected judges and corporate interests. They're about to start create a new, what will I say, an X version of a tribunal. And this is probably
Privileges
why.
Committee.
Yeah, this is probably why a privileges committee. There you are. It is an privileges committee, and this is probably why the reason Richard Prebble came off the Waitangi Tribunal, because he will probably, I'll bet my money on it, that he will be the leader, he will be the chair of this new act tribunal that they're going to put in place. So, it is a dangerous law. It ignores the Te Tiriti o Waitangi. It allows Aotearoa to open its doors to international greed and corporate exploitation. It privileges private property over public good, and it will, like Debbie said, it puts the noose over our neck. And I use my tipuna all the time, Mokoboko, who was wrongfully accused of killing Reverend Wagner in Portuguese back in the 1860s. He was hung in Mount Eden, and before they hung him, he says, "Take the noose from around my neck so that I may sing my song." Tangohia mai te taura I taku kaki kia waiata I taku waiata. And what this feels like is that noose has been put back over our necks so that we cannot sing at all. And so the 21 days is a noose over the neck. The Regulatory Standards Bill will do the same thing. And what he's trying to do is fast track that through the parliamentary process by giving us a 4-week submissions process and not a 6-week submissions process. And we'll move it as fast as September and not the November date that he gave that he reassured everybody. So right. I don't know whether that's the same type of explanation Tanya Waikato probably gave you a more articulated version of that. But that is my more layman's type explanation of the.
And I think critically, there is absolutely no mention of Māori hapu or te tiriti. It's like we actually don't exist because they want to have one law. We're all equal, and again, we've always spelt out. There's only one reason why you get rid of tiriti, because it's in the bloody way.
Yeah.
And we're the last bastion. Back here in Taranaki, we're all fighting against seabed mine and fast track, and it's a beautiful fight because we've got those who can swim and dive doing the swimming diving thing, those who can do this doing such and such thing. Those of us who are honoured to be tangata whenua have the obligation and are using our rights and interests as tiriti to fight in that space. And every non-Māori around here, tangata tiriti or learning, all get what it is that we have, that super right we have, which we never gave up as Indigenous peoples. But that's what he's doing. He's erasing it. And the whole 18 months has almost felt like, we're just holding a scrum. We've been in scrum the whole time to keep them away from tiriti. And you almost got a scrum paralysis going on because, he gets out and he got to hide in. And he was such a bad sport. Like, Seymour was like such a tangiwito. And even you hear him jibing, like he's so got the feels about it, or so triggered. And I'm just like, you got barely 8%, David. Like, your own people voted against you. But then, they are only an 8% apart.
Sorry, I just had to look up tangiweto, Māori term that translates to crybaby. There you go, perfect. Love it.
Sorry, I try to talk flash, but when I'm home, I'm even worse. Like, sorry.
No,
take the girl out of the party, but you can't take the party out of the girl.
It's perfect for us because we don't talk flash. We just talk. Hey, obvious question. Obviously, with the Regulatory Standards Bill and Chewie, to his credit, has been onto this twice a night submit.
Sorry, my son, I hit
Be
tattoo.
unbearable.
Other than that, this imagery of the noose around your neck, Rawiri, what about those of us who aren't Māori? What can you suggest to us to help remove that noose?
Well, are we proud of Aotearoa being known for its green? We've got this around the world. People always say that Aotearoa has this green image, and that green image hasn't come. I'm not talking about Green Party or Greenpeace or anything like that.
Yep.
But we've done really well to look after our oceans. We've done really well to look after our whenua and our forests. Although there are some things happening that need to be fixed. But in actual fact, more than any other country, we don't have the big oil companies on our whenua, drilling the shit out of it. We don't have the huge diamond or gold quarries, the cobalt quarries. We have quarries, yes, we do, but we don't have them. There is a green image that Aotearoa has. That is there because of Te Tiriti o Waitangi.
Mm.
And if people are proud of that, then we need to make sure that Te Tiriti is not removed or erased or annihilated from every piece of legislation. New Zealand first want to move legislation that removes it from 28 pieces of legislation, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, because it is in the road. It is a hoha for those who want to exploit the country and open it up to a free market. And so the way you take the noose off is that everybody must submit. But I think the biggest thing for us today, Hikama, and I just want to say to you that Te Paati Maori isn't a race-based party. We are a rights-based party. And Te Tiriti o Waitangi protects the rights of everybody here in Aotearoa, not just Māori. And so don't get us wrong. Te Tiriti o Waitangi will protect you, it will protect me, it will protect our mokopuna. And I'm talking about all our grandchildren, all our mokopuna. All of us living here in Aotearoa need to ensure that the security that Te Tiriti o Waitangi provides us is that green image, is the ability to be able to protect the country from international exploitation. And so taking the noose off our neck and helping us is because it's on all of our neck at the moment, Pat. It's not just on ours. He's put it on everybody's neck. And so what we're saying is that in order for us all to help each other to take that noose off our neck so that we all may sing our song, is that we must submit right now, today. 2026, we must make sure that this is a one-term government. We must make sure that this is a one-term government whose attack on the treaty is an attack on Aotearoa. It's an attack on all of us.
Vote to Paati Maori 2026. Is that right? Is that what you're supposed to say at the end? Something like that?
That's right.
One term.
At the end.
Hey, it's been amazing having you guys tonight. If it's okay, we just want to throw a couple of these people's comments and questions to you. Maybe not so much the questions. Apologise, whānau, because this is our typical. We've hit Chewie. We've hit our 90-minute hour. We do 90-minute hours here. They never seem to last 60 minutes. But so let's get out of here super quick. Tom says, if Te Paati Māori makes it into government next year, will you commit right now to using the fast-track legislation to drill an exploratory mine shaft straight through the middle of Shane Jones's house? So that's
Yes! I'm biased. Honestly, you should ask everyone back here what we think about. Yeah. I would want to put on any other takiwa, what's that English, region. What is that we're dealing with, the uncertainty, the lies, the myths that are coming from some of these companies. I couldn't commit to doing that to another region because his house is in a region, but I would definitely do everything I could do to bowl out that fast track. Everyone knows that's like my second name. Every time I say fast track, they look at me.
Wow.
Absolutely. Good part-time.
Message here from Lutrify. Warm greetings, Aroha and Manaki, to you both from Paula Marie McKenzie and Mr. Paula Marie Paranihi. You're both amazing. Kia kaha, sister and brother. That's just a This is the family around us. Andrew says, Kia ora Rawiri, I campaigned against you in 2020 for top. Don't hate me. And your speaking to Rotorua Girls High School was inspiring to me as a wannabe. You far surpassed us all. You spoke kindly to me after. So if I make it, thank you. This is the thank you from Andrew.
Hey, Andrew. Just want to be here to Andrew. I also want to be here to Top because of any other party. We probably align with many of Top's policies, to be quite honest. If you look at our tax policy, on whenua, and even, taking GST, capital gains, or even land tax and things like that. So, I Top resonated with me. Top resonated with me in terms of some of their policies. So I just wanted to be here to Andrew. I do remember Andrew. When we were speaking together at those particular rallies, we were saying pretty similar things and nodding our heads and agreeing because, it was more common sense policies. I just want to say that.
Kai Mātara says, so true, Rawiri, National starves us so that it makes us think we deserve little more than crumbs. And I think that probably text cuts off because it was going to be Labour gives us, and I'm assuming there was another line after that. I'll tell you something that we often talk about, guys, and it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this. When they talk about bringing Māori to the table, or offering the plate to Māori as the crumbs thing you just did, we've kind of thought and been told by others that it's sort of flipped since the signing of the treaty, because when the treaty was signed, wasn't it Māori bringing Europeans to the table? And it wasn't just Māori bringing Europeans to the table. The table belonged to Māori. Like everything was Māori, and it was bringing Europeans. And then all of a sudden, we've flipped somewhere, and now we're saying we're inviting Māori to the table. Yet it's Māori's table. It's your table. So how do we educate people on that?
We didn't have to be at a table because we spoke and wānanga and treated each other equally. We worked on a restorative tikanga, and everything was about how you treat each other's mana and how you were connecting with each other and the reciprocity, but also the future well-being of everyone. You got to remember, Te Tiriti was actually offered because there was a whole lot of people arriving who weren't looking after each other. They were unruly. There was just chaos. And so often that analogy of the table annoys me because actually it's not a kai table, it's a board table. And that board table was not round, and it was not inclusive. And when you look at how we would wānanga, yes, we had ariki, yes, we had, but it was a different way of being because we were interconnected spiritually, physically, and environmentally. That board table, I don't ever want to be part of their table, ever. We never left ours.
One here from Amosi says, was just about to donate to Te Paati Maori when I remembered they were on tonight. I voted for Te Paati Maori. I love their values and tax policies. They have all our backs, Māori and Pākehā realness. I hope you didn't just give away your donation to Paati Maori with a super chat, dude. You better go and do that anyway. We'll refund it if that's what you've done, and you can give it to Te Paati Maori.
If a little bit counts. Thank
well,
you.
Ellen, with $100,000, eh, Debs? You could do with $100,000.
Ngā mihi aroha mo te koha te kiti arongorongo.
And then lots of love. Thanks for your time, Deb and Rawiri. Lots of love from Titai Tokoro. We love our TMP. Oh, TMP.
No crunchies. No crunchies. Any crunchy ones out there?
Not really. Chewie, is there anything else you want to put up before we say?
I've been doing the crunchies. Look, let me put one of them up. Look, just you're going to have to put your thinking caps on, and I'm just going to have to. He's actually asked us a very. I think it's a question. There's no question mark. He just keeps on typing communist, and I don't know if he thinks the chat is Google and he's wanting to join a party, or it's very confusing. But it's deeply boring.
Now listen, comrade. Stop in the field.
He doesn't know I've got. No, I won't say about the flag behind me. Yeah, look, I think if I could sum up actually the point that he's going, because you are two obviously, and as we've said, unapologetically Māori people, you now have to be the representative for every bad thing that Māori have done and answer for it immediately. because I don't know. It's just dumb. We don't often get that level of Facebook comment dumbness come into our chat. Our chat is remarkably intelligent and very attractive. Even the crunchy croutons. But I guess the algorithm delivered him to us, and there's two things that are really bad in our chat that doesn't get treated well, and that's being disrespectful, and the worst thing, being boring. Don't be boring.
Yeah.
Don't be boring.
Be an interesting racist. That's fun. Be a
Yeah.
boring racist. That's no good at all.
Yes.
You know, we had I had a comment recently. I try to look at my comments. Sometimes we get really busy, so I'm days behind, which I was with the stuff with Sean Pling and Winston. Anyway, and sometimes we'll get comments like, "Oh, well, so and so has been harmed or hurt," and on their facial thing is the Israel flag, and I'm like, you know,
Yeah, no,
do
there's a
you
lot of
see
that.
yourself? So the hypocrisy of where people are at, but you know, we do trigger some that have got, you know, trauma and that just don't get, you know, the sense of pride in aroha manaki. But I think that's, and it must be really sad. Like for me, we have a really amazing Indian community here, and they share so much aroha. I don't let someone that's had a bad experience, like maybe the one that tried to imprison us, get in my way of everyone else that I know as a community. And I think that often the ignorance is because they actually don't know anyone in our community, and the only profile they've got
That's
is what's come
always
out
the
of the
thing that
media that they
changes it.
follow. Yeah.
I mean, from my own experience, like sometimes and look, I cannot remember what it was, but sometimes you guys bring something up that I'm like, I don't get it. Is that really a thing? And then I think it depends on how elastic people's brains are. Can you sit there and think of that from a different point of view, or see where you guys are coming? Like my experience is not yours for obvious reasons. Who I am and where I am. But does that mean that it's what you're saying is irrelevant? Does that mean that I can never put myself in a position of empathy and understanding? No, that's all people need to do.
Yeah.
Is sit there and go, well, why are these people saying this? Is it something we need to address? And taking a point of like saying, oh, these guys are saying colonization's not good. Is this my fault? Did I do it? No?
Yeah.
Then don't take it personally.
It's amazing.
That's
when
all it is.
you say, like, say, for example, I've said stale pale male, and the ones who are neither stale never react.
I'm two of those things. I'm not going to tell you which ones, but I'm two of them.
I know,
and I don't take it personal.
But I think
I know exactly
those
who you're talking about.
who do it, if you'll say, oh, well, that's what colonization, and the reactions is like, well, you weren't around then. Why are you triggered? But it is. I mean, you know, human nature is to actually agree to disagree and not to understand and not to listen. But the minute I sit there and say, well, my mother's family's Irish and they spent 7 years getting out of colonization, that, you know, like, you know, and then there's just a different maramatanga, there's a different understanding about it all. But yeah, I think some of the things that we all have too has been 6 very different MPs, is that we also bring 6 very different life experiences as Māori in a Māori movement that is pushing against a very, very, you know, not only were we having a hard time with trying to cut through and people understanding when they're doing incremental changes, we're now to some degree, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this extreme right-wing government has made it really easier to be louder about our rights.
It's
and to be louder about the treaty. I have never had 18 months consecutively where we wānanga at home here on the ground, and you know, because we weren't brought up like Ngāpuhi to manaki our treaty. We got so smashed around in colonisation, we barely understand our own selves in Taranaki. Parihaka took such a long time to talk about, you know, globally. So my point being is that I've never seen 18 months consecutively where it's been at the table, continuously talked about. in business, in hui, in rangatahi, in my dad at Karakia does things. I think, oh my God, and I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful.
Is that the silver lining on all of this ugliness that we've had? Is that it has stirred up everything that was just hanging out at the bottom, and now we can sort of just identify it and talk
movement
about it.
People. We've moved collectively. If you look through history, tohu and te whiti, for me, Te Toko Waru, Rātana, the Kingitanga, we move and we unite really well when we're under attack, and we go back to that tikanga-led resistance. And I think te koti, this is a natural part of where we go to under attack. And I mean, like I say, you've got to continue on and look for the hope. Have the frustration, have the tears, have the anger, but we're a forever people. And if we look back, everything has shown us that we move well, we mobilise as movements. And Te Paati Maori's part of that resistance realm to encourage everybody. And we don't move. You look at, Rawiri, but you look at Parihaka was not about Māori. It was a whole lot of tangata tiriti there as well. So I think that's probably one of the great cultural things about Aotearoa.
I get the sense, Rawiri, that Deb and Chewie could go for the next hour.
Yeah.
I also get the sense that you may be sitting in a kitchen, and I'm guessing it's probably on a hard chair. So we're gonna wrap it up now, and we're gonna say thank you so much for being with us, guys.
Deb, she's sitting on her bed. She could just roll off.
But to be honest, I'm a night owl. I could do this for another few hours, but this has been amazing. We've been talking to you guys for over an hour and a half, and this is just unheard of. But I'm sure you guys have got things to do tomorrow, as well as, getting to bed and stuff tonight. But before we go, I'm not even going to read any more chats. We're not going to do anything to extend this. I just want to give both of you the chance, for a final word. Me and Chewie will stay here when you guys leave, because we've got a few super chats and stuff to do. But before you leave, anything you want to leave us with, anything you want to leave the listener and the viewer with before we say thank you so much and good night.
Go for it, Debs. Ladies before gentlemen.
Oh my gosh, what was the question? Sorry, my son needs me to turn.
Any closing?
Oh, yeah. Oh no, I just really honoured, and again, it's nice to have a cup of tea and sit down and have a chat. And I wish that we could do this in life more, not just us, everyone. So, and I always love catching up with Rawiri. We don't get enough time together to do these chats, but wānanga is a critical part of how we listen and learn and chill. And when you're chilled, you reveal a lot more about yourself and a lot more authentic. So thank you.
Yeah.
And by the way, all my mother's family's redhead, and my mother was a redhead too. So I just
yes.
There's a name that we used to call people with red hair in Te Iwi Māori, and that was Pākaka. So the Māori name for somebody with red hair is Pākaka. Like a kaka bird, they've got an orangey thing underneath there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Pākaka Pākaka. So that's the name that we have for whānau that have red hair. And that's actually Taranaki have got big population of that. But I just wanted to say, my cousin often talks there. Now, my cousin wasn't really political. Kia ora kazi Eric Waititi. I just wanted to meet him, Eric Twin. And he'll probably be watching this at some point. I don't know whether he'll even be watching it live, but he'll be watching this because he tells me about you fellas all the time.
Yeah.
Many of you guys came from my cousin, who is not political, but has become very political. And so, I just want to say that you guys are getting to the ears of many that probably wouldn't have taken any interest in politics at all. And that your fellas mahi, I think, is essential and is a necessity for those who don't understand politics, but probably, sit in the kind of same situation as many of my, like my cousin, who just want a discussion, just want to have the wānanga, and want to be able to understand what's going on. And so, I just want to be here to my cousin, but I want to be here to you both, who are probably getting into the homes and into the corners of our communities that not many others would get into in regards to the awareness around what's happening in our political landscape and what's happening around in the country and how it affects us all. So I just want to be here to you both this evening. That's all I want to say. And to those who tuned in tonight, for an hour and a half, I'm sorry. But ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Thank you for listening. And if there was anything you took out of this program, And you got any questions after this, feel free to head over to Debbie's page and ask her all the questions that you want.
You might have to weed through all the white racists, but
And especially around capitalism, ask Debbie. She knows all about it.
It's been an absolute pleasure, guys. I hope we can do this again sometime. I'm sure we will. And anything we can do, we're on board with that noose. We want to get that off, and we want to for ourselves and for others around us as well. So we can open more, if we can open more doors. There's a couple of rodeo clowns from Dunedin. We are happy to, and we'll stay in touch.
I'm Henry. Kia ora koutou.
Thanks,
Cheers. Oh. Wow. This will shock you, chat, Pat. I fucking had the time of my life there.
People, just so people, we'll let them in on the secret now. I texted Chewie maybe 20 minutes ago and said, probably about time we should let these guys go. Maybe not 20 minutes ago.
Up, bro.
And then and it's not, because we were fine. Everyone's fine. But it's just.
Oh, I didn't even see the text.
You didn't see it. Okay, that's fine. and then there was. It's all really good. There's no complaints here, Chewie. It was great. We've got some super chats and stuff to do though. It was funny. And they're great, man. And they'll be back, and we will talk again. And look, I feel
we'll see
really
them at Waitangi, won't we?
Yeah, we will. Already got the accommodation booked.
We will with you.
I just want to say, we're really, really lucky, all of us. I really do. When I talk to them about us learning all together, it really is. You might watch us, right? But all of us are the same here. That we all get to sit and listen to these kinds of interviews. Just because we're getting to ask the questions doesn't really make us any different from anybody else who is watching. This really is a group community effort. And because you guys out there are helping us grow and helping us, I'm not saying, because we've had Debbie on before, I'm not saying, you've got to get lots of viewers and never come on. It's not that, but you just heard Rawiri. There's reach going on now. And it's just, I'm incredibly humbled by the idea that two of the leaders in our parliament just sat with us for over an hour and a half and just talked. It's wicked. So we want to get to the super chats and stuff. Thank you so much for being in there, because I do go right back to the start of the show when we were late. You should have seen it. It was adorable. Debs couldn't get in, and Rawiri, and I said to Rawiri, well, you give her a call, and I had to go use the bathroom and stuff. And Rawiri, I came back, and you could hear Deb through Rawiri's phone going, no, what am I supposed? It was really like Rawiri was fixing all the tech problems for Deb. It was adorable. It was great. Tane says enticement fee. That's when we were waiting around. That's what we were waiting around for. Paying the I have terrible fashion fine. Twice. Exactly the same one twice. Alice says, fine, I'll do it, late fee. There you go. Liam, tech support fund. Gold says, don't super chat. I don't know that you can stop us. Well, I just didn't. Yeah, I know. And look, I appreciate you guys know the system, but it's just, I didn't want people to put a whole bunch of money on something that wasn't going to be asked specifically. Arvid's vibes are high, up TPM. That's a nice one. Fetu Marama. Oh gosh, look, I've been doing Māori language at Tawananga for about 12 weeks. I don't know if I'm going to get here. Should I give it a crack? Long A, long E. Tēnā rawa atu korua. I hari ana te nākau ki te kitea e a korua e taku tino kōnei. If my tutor's watching, I'll be getting smashed tomorrow.
You might be getting extra credit, Pat.
Ipurangi, aroha nui, mai te tahi TPM voter. I was confident with about half of those. So that's better than last time.
Done.
Would I have been confident with about 3%? No, I just wrong. I got an idea. I actually like this, Rajan. I saw this. Got an idea for a show since Chippy, Chloe, Marama, and Debbie, Debbie, and Rawiri have all been on. How about a left-wing leaders debate with all of them? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we could do a debate. They'd just be fucking high-fiving each other all the time like they did the other debate. But round tables?
Like, just a discussion of you're all parties that are nominally on the left. Where are the differences? Where are the stuff that we all vibe on? You know, that would be amazing.
I thought it was interesting, Chewie, when you were talking about Te Paati Maori being a left-wing party, because like for a long time, they described themselves as centrist. I was interested in what Rawiri was going to say about that. And then he said they are the centre of the wharenui, but making it clear that doesn't mean centrist politically. So yeah, it was an interesting question. Lurchy got a bit crazy with the super chats. I'm on a high. We've witnessed a momentum of growth, Māori renaissance, and the galvanising of a national identity where there is no Kiwi without iwi. We're rolling.
That is the line of the night.
Oh, there you go. There you
No
go.
Kiwi without iwi. I love that.
As I said, last one I promise, Paula Marine McKenzie. For Fardeb, please, big shout out to my mate, the real deal Neil. Apologies if we couldn't get to that one, but we couldn't get all of them. Submitting an RSB Section 9 review of the RSB's consistency with the principles of the RSB. The sections 8.1, 8J, 8K, 8L analysis are my fave. Good. Sorry, Paul, didn't be able to get to that. Rawiri and Dev's views on the Māori ward referendums. TK? To Perry. Is it time to recognise Palestine, boycott Israel? Yeah, I think that came out pretty clearly.
I think very clearly.
Yeah. Late fee, TPM. Yes. Kia ora, says Nick. Always blow on the crumbs. Safe for whites together, the coalition. From Kiwi Bird. My dad's an 86-year-old Pākehā, born in rural Otago. Last election, he told me he was really impressed with Te Paati Maori. Another one from Andrew. Gosh darn it, I haven't listened to you before, Deb, but you speak to my soul. Amazing phrasing consistently. Consistently? Yeah. I wrote and submitted, says Potent, my opposition to the regulatory standards bill while watching this live.
My man.
Gary says, I am half an hour delayed in watching. Have to 100% agree with Rawiri that we should become the Switzerland of the Pacific. Neutral.
We've already got the good chocolate.
Yeah.
We've already got the good chocolate.
Whitakers could be our
We're halfway there.
Yeah, halfway there.
Later hosen.
Another one from Amosi. I made sure I will still be able to give. Oh, that's when I made that joke. I saw how much all the small parties get and was like, oh shit, the Pākehā females loves Te Paati. This Pākehā female loves Te Paati Maori. And last one in the chat, boo at Pat for cutting it off and being respectful. 4 more hours. 4 more hours. I added the second one for effect. There you go, Chewie. Obviously, we aren't doing any other stories tonight. I did say, I think in the chat, we'll see what happens.
The thumbnail is a lie.
Yeah, it is a lie. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? I mean, anything else we want to get? Oh, let me just say this as well, because it's a good time to do it. There is a meetup happening in Auckland Friday week. It'll be 7 p.m. For anyone who wants to come along at the Long Room on Ponsonby Road. All right? I'm not going to put any. I haven't actually got anything to put up. I'm just putting it up there. I was going to ask Rawiri where his cousin was, because if his cousin's in Auckland, you should come along. Friday week, me and Chewie will be at the Long Room, Ponsonby Road. It's up the K Road end at 7 p.m. And if you're a patron, then there's going to be another event for you guys. Details will be on the Patreon page in the next day or so. Other than that, we're not going to talk about merch. We're doing free giveaways and stuff. bhnshop.nz if you want to check anything out, but we'll leave all that stuff for now because let's just revel in the conversation we've just had, Chewie. And look, let me also just a little apology. I haven't yet shouted out. I normally do it on a Monday. I shout out to our new patrons and stuff. I haven't done that this week yet, simply because we've had a lot going on, and I didn't want to start the show, delaying the two leaders of Te Paati Maori by several minutes while we did that shout out. So that was a conscious decision, but that will be happening tomorrow. So if you've joined us in the last sort of 10 days, I'll be giving you a lovely shout out tomorrow. Greg is saying signed T-shirts. There you go, Chewie. Take your Vivid along with you Friday week. You could have an authentic Chewie Fufu T-shirt signed by Chewie. There you go. Perfect. Just like I bought one.
Oh, Jesus, that'd be a bit cool.
Hey, guys, this has been a blast. Chewie, do you want to wrap with anything? I feel like I've done a lot of the driving and talking then, other than the last 20 minutes of the conversation where you wouldn't shut up. Is there anything you want to wrap with?
Oh, man, I was watching you going to do a topic. I'm like, nah, I'm going to get you here. I'm going to get you. It's too good. I can't hold it.
Do you know what I mostly dropped? I mostly dropped all the jokes. Whole bunch of stuff that I wrote down when they said, like when Debbie said something about one night stand, and she said, I jotted it down. This is what I do, Fano, because or else I forget my train of thought. I can't even find where I wrote it now. Anyway, and then I went, no, we've gone past that so far now. I can't bring that joke back. What did she say? Oh, yeah, she said something about a one night stand. And then she said, are we there yet? And I said, I don't know too much about one night stands, Debs, but if you're saying, are we there yet, you might be doing it wrong. But I didn't do that. That was a good joke, but I didn't
That's
do
a good
it because
joke. That's a good
we
joke.
went past it. We went past it.
Yes, well done there.
Why don't you wrap for us, eh?
I'm going to wrap up. Lots of people talking about the RSB. It's a thing. You should do a submission. The website is getting absolutely punished. So the best advice that I've got for you is write down your thoughts in a separate app or in a notepad or something so you can copy it over in case it crashes. The other good thing about copying that down is that you can put it in a separate email to your local government MP, your opposition MP, whoever represents your region, so they know your thoughts as well. Double the effort. Same amount of effort, double the impact. But it'll save you some aggravation as well, because I remember from the treaty principles bill, probably trying to submit 5 times and just losing everything.
So put it in a Word document or a notepad. Yeah.
Talk to your friends, talk to your family. You can, if you want to put something in front of their eyeballs that explains why it's shitty. You've got our video with Tanya from last week explaining why the RSB is bad. You can find that in our videos list. There's also an excellent video.
I have pinned it to my Twitter. I've pinned that to my Twitter. And actually, I've pinned it to the Twitter, and I've pinned that description of the RSB to Facebook as well. So if people want to find them, there's 2 easy places to get them.
Fantastic. Moana's also released a excellent video about it at Te Ao with Moana. Tomorrow night. Also on YouTube, and we're going to be talking about it tonight. I've just learned that. So that is our mission. Cool.
It's been fun, team. It's been a great night. I've really enjoyed it as well, Chewie. I hope you guys have too out there. And I think it's time for us. It's time for Chewie to go to bed, and it's time for me to do a bunch of editing. Actually, I'm not going to do much editing tonight, because normally I do the clips we've done from the night, but tonight's like one 90-minute clip. That's kind of easy.
Yeah, good luck chopping that one up.
All right, team. Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night for another edition of Big Hairy News. Been a blast, and we'll catch you then.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the handout for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A in a self and a higher in mind. All heavily either this way or that, and will be analyzed by what Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
Just of course, a huge thanks to Debbie and to Rawiri for joining us tonight. And I never take it for granted. I never expect to get anyone's time. There's nothing we're doing that says you must come on our show. So it's always a pleasure and a bit of a surprise people want to do it. Huge thanks to them. Huge thanks to you guys for being here tonight. Really big numbers watching tonight. If you like what you heard, make sure you're following us on all the platforms. We're on Twitter and Blue Sky, and we're on YouTube and Facebook. Follow us along, and there'll be clips from this coming out as well. Make sure you share them around if you want to help spread the news and help get those nooses off New Zealanders' necks. Anything, Chewie?
No, I have exhausted my word count. So go to bed,
Catch you tomorrow
work
night.
in the morning.
Catch you tomorrow night from 9. Hooroo, team.
Cheers, fam.